The National Climate Report issued by 13 federal agencies on Friday presents the harshest warnings to date of the consequences of climate change in the United States. The report predicts that if significant steps are not taken to reduce toxic fossil fuels, the entire nation's health could be at risk by breathing them in. Dr. Nate Schmidt practices environmental science at Blackhawk Area Technical College and states that these negative effects of fossil fuels could be more damaging than we once thought.
The effects of these inhaling these nanoparticles. It turns out that they're not just toxic to the lungs, which is widely known. There's actually some evidence that there's neurotoxicity. That is, the particulate matter that we inhale, some of it goes directly into our lungs, and then it actually travels into our brains across the blood-brain barrier.
The new report, which is mandated by Congress and made public by the White House, is notable not only for the precision of its calculations, but also because its findings are opposite of President Trump's minimal agenda of environmental regulation. Directly, the 1,000-page assessment lays out the devastating effects of a changing climate on our economy. Going forward, American exports could be disrupted, and agricultural yields could fall drastically. Many scientists now agree that in order for our economy not to be heavily impacted by this change, the entire system would have to be restructured. Clara Fulbright works as a market research analyst and has studied these impacts for almost a decade.
We need to restructure the economies, all the economies, both the most developed and developing countries, if we are going to be able to address and solve the climate dilemma, as well as to meet the commitment that we are trying to keep the temperature from going above 1.5, I would say, though that's aspirational in some quarters.
Along with this fast change in economic restructuring, the report found that the largest contributor of global air pollution are large factories and corporations, some of which are located overseas. Environmentalists such as William McDonnell now warn the Trump administration that everyone must commit to meet the 2050 emission goal.
Serious commitment from each of the nations involved, 185 nations involved, 195 nations involved, to reduce their carbon emissions to achieve the trajectory of emissions that we need in order to stay below the 2-degree guardrail. And we know that what that entails, 50% reduction by 2050 and an 80% reduction beyond that. Rather than arguing about what we should be doing, agree what to do and then figure out how we're going to deliver it.
Until new growth happens, the National Climate Report will continue to affect the United States negatively.